now. We got 4 minutes. Let me use the bathroom and come right back.
Okay.
Time for station identification. We'll be right back. This is NBC.
It'll give us a few minutes to see if anybody else wants to join.
Sure.
Alice wasn't sure she could come, but she said she'd try.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Her daughter, I don't know if you knew, her daughter had a seizure and ended up in the hospital.
Yeah, I've been praying for her this week, so.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Seems they put her on new medication and she seems better. So hopefully she'll be okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's her name?
Her daughter's name, I don't know.
Kathy.
Kathy.
Alice's daughter's name is Kathy. She had a seizure and is in the hospital.
Can you adjust your computer so we can see your face, Aaliyah?
Let's
That's
see.
better.
I can't keep my legs in that position very long. They'll cramp up, but.
Oh, so you can't move your computer at all?
My computer's resting on my legs right now. And let's see if we can put it up here. Because this is stable. Is
That's good.
light still okay to see me here? We'll do it like
That's very good.
because this is stable. Nana, you're okay with not being in the picture, aren't you, Nana? Yeah, Nana is fine with that. She says she would rather not be in the picture.
It's a beautiful day today.
Yes. We got out on our bike ride.
Good for you. Do you
Yeah.
have an e-bike?
Yeah, we each have a bike.
The new e-bikes, my son and his wife, they bike a lot.
Oh.
And they recently bought e-bikes.
Are those electric or?
Yeah.
Oh.
They're partial. You still have to pedal, but he said it's great. They live in Santa Cruz. And so they have a lot of trails around them that they take.
Wow, good.
Yeah, they enjoy it. And they used to be our Sunday school teacher. He and his wife, they do the Coyote Trail there in San Jose a lot.
Oh. We just ride on the city streets, but we like it. It's nice, calm neighborhood.
Yeah, that's fun. It's good that you get out and do that.
Yes. Aaliyah, do you think Anne will be joining us tonight?
I don't know. I know she does know that it's Bible study tonight because we had talked about that, but I'm not sure if she'll want to join us or not.
Mm-hmm.
Aaliyah, is your hand hurting you?
A little bit. I wore the brace all day.
Oh, good.
But it did make it a little more bruised and battered because it was sort of cramped up in the brace. So the brace ended up holding it like this a lot of the day, which made it hurt more, but it would relax during the day. And I'll try to get it warmed up and loose before I try to brace it tomorrow so that it goes on right.
Right, that's important to get it on right.
Mm-hmm.
So you got a new refrigerator, huh?
Right, yes. Our old one, the seals were not good, so it would leak in room air and get all condension and water would get everywhere.
Yeah.
And we couldn't get the seals replaced, so eventually we realized, okay, we'll just buy a new one. So it did come yesterday, and so we locked
Good.
it in the room because, I mean, there were millimeters of clearance to get this like 500-pound refrigerator in the door and around the corner into the kitchen. It was very, very tight for delivery people to get it in there, but eventually we got it in. And
Yeah, I've got one I need to get rid of. It's leaking and it's, that's not good.
yeah, our
It's
refrigerator's
old.
like 30 years old, and it just eventually the seals got too old and brittle and just cracked.
Yeah. Well, the way I was raised, you used it until it died.
Yeah, this was Richard's mom's refrigerator, and they used it until
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, we eventually this week let us know we have to get a new one now. So
Yeah.
the frustrating thing is, though, it's bigger than the old one we had, but once we took everything out and tried to put it back in the new one, it did not all fit.
Really?
It was like technically one lasagna smaller than our previous freezer. So we had to pull that lasagna out and just defrost it and eat it this week.
Oh dear.
It does not fit in the new freezer.
The freezer is smaller, huh?
So
Yeah.
what kind is it? What brand?
I do not remember the brand.
Yeah. Yeah. My son, he works for Home Depot and he says that they aren't making refrigerators like they made them in the old days. I was thinking maybe Kenmore or Whirlpool or, what's that, Maytag? But he says none of them are made the way they used to be.
Oh, that's too bad.
That's refrigerators.
I mean, it seems to work fine so far, but
Yeah.
we'll see how long it lasts, though. Yeah, that Richard was sad to give up the old refrigerator because they just don't make them like they used to anymore. So he was sad to give up that old sort of
Yeah.
way they made the back in the refrigerator.
Yeah.
As was being one of the last things of his mom that we still had.
Oh, yeah. Nostalgia.
Mm-hmm.
As good as we can get. Or arrange it the worse it gets. We have a side. The halo is natural, see. I just been very good, so.
Yes, being on Zoom makes us all creatures of light. That is just
That's true.
being on the Zoom. That's how it works.
Yeah. As I can get. Yeah, I guess that's as good as it's gonna get. Hi, guys. Here comes Mary Beth. I see an iPad coming in. I know Anne's coming because I talked to her. Unless she's over here.
There she is.
Hi, Mary Beth.
Hi. Hi, Nadine.
Good to see
There
you.
you are.
How's everybody?
Pretty good.
Hanging in
Hanging
there.
in there?
Ah,
Feels like it's getting cold to me. I'm sitting here and the sky's turning dark and I've got
Yeah.
my jacket on and
Yeah, a lot of the nights have been colder recently, and they've been raining a lot.
yeah.
The sun sets 5:15, 5:30, something like that. I looked it up, but that was days ago. And it changes.
5:34.
Okay,
So, okay.
we'll go ahead and get started, and other people can just join us if they come in.
Sunset in Mountain
And
View.
then we could catch them up if they have any questions. So I need to start off tonight with a heartfelt apology to my mother, because she is right that she was telling me when we were preparing this lesson that Parakleo was in verse 1 instead of verse 2, and she is right, it is in verse 1. And I was just stuck on how I had it in my mind, and the reference I had opened in front of me, which was wrong. And so eventually I
That's
got
courageous, Leah.
realized, no, she was right. It should be with verse 1. But I like to cover it tonight as sort of starting, okay, even though it wasn't verse 1, this is all the introduction to the topic that verse 2 is going to cover. So
Sure.
it does start
That was very cool. That was courageous of you, Leah.
that Paul is calling us to is beseeching us to present our lives as a living sacrifice, which is our spiritual act of worship, and that is the introduction to verse 2. So if someone would go ahead and read Romans 12:2, which will be our main subject for today.
I'll read it.
Okay.
Romans 12:2. Do not be conformed to this world,
Hey, are you doing it?
but be you transformed by the renewing of your mind, that by
You want me to send you a copy of the link? Okay.
hiding you may, I'm sorry, I can't read my own writing. That by testing you may desire what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect.
Mm-hmm. So what is your picture of not conforming to the world?
Wow.
Well, one thing for me would be not living your life to get more material stuff, not trying to acquire material stuff and money and such.
Mm-hmm.
Conforming usually means being the same as everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's and when we think of the world, we think of non-believers, everything that's out there that's not Christian. So it's turning away from the world's values.
Yes, and not really being conformed to the spirit of the age, as C.S. Lewis would say.
Right.
Because the Greek is technically, it's not do not be conformed to this world, it's do not be conformed to the age that is this. Do not be conformed to this age, rather.
Where does that put it then? What in reference to do not consider this age?
Like
AGE?
the fashion of the time.
Ah,
What if you say, oh, it's current year, we need to do this. You do not need to be stuck in that frame of mind that you need to be up to date with everything.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it is important to note also that just rejecting things is not all God has enforced. God's command is not purely hate this and stay away from this. It's something else that he wants. He has a positive command too.
Yeah, that's important to me. That God is a gentle, loving God.
And the reason for this is highlighted in Matthew 12:23-24. Does somebody want to?
Somebody got a Bible handy?
Yeah, I can read it. 12:23-24. And all the people were amazed and said, is that it? Can this be the son of David? But when the Pharisees heard it, they said, "It is only by Beelzebul, the prince of demons, that this man casts out demons." Is that it?
I
I
mean,
guess that's
it is
it.
close to that passage, but this is actually about how after he's cast out an unclean spirit, there is a this is when an unclean spirit goes out of a person. It passes through water places looking for rest, but does not find it. Then it says, "I will return to the home I left." When it returns, it finds the house empty, swept clean, and put in order. Then it goes and breeds with it 7 others, being more evil than itself. And they go and live there, so that the last day of the person is worse than the first. It will be that way for this evil generation as well. So this is talking about, okay, when Jesus was casting out demons, they said, look, okay, he gets rid of the demons, but if you just say, oh, rebuild your life, the demon will come back and say, oh, now that you cleaned the place up, I would like to come back and live there again. So that even if you just are purely negative and saying, look, I'm rejecting this bad habit, I'm rejecting this sinful habit, and don't replace it with anything, eventually the habit will come back up. And
So what is the suggestion? What to replace it with? Love, generosity.
yes, it says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that which is good and acceptable and perfect. So that's what we're going to look at. The rest of the study is what the rest is versus what to replace that with. So have you ever returned to a bad habit after quitting it for a time? What did it feel like? And what things have helped you avoid this?
I've just gotten the ability to allow people to come in, so I just admitted Ann and I admitted
Yes,
Alice.
go ahead and do that.
I did.
Mhm.
Ann, are you on with your audio?
Oh,
Ann?
can you hear me? Can you
We
hear
can
me?
hear you, Alice.
Okay, well, I can't get you on my iPad. For some reason, it says the address wasn't right. So I'm using my phone, but
Mhm.
I
I'm gonna send you-
probably,
We can send you the address again. I've got it right here.
It
oh,
may be
okay.
just that there might be an ad blocker or something on her iPad that's just not going to conduct well.
No,
She
you
has
know what?
Zoom app.
No, I didn't have my Zoom on my pad.
Yes,
I
if
put
you
the Zoom on and now it
sometimes
says
like with an
meeting.
iPad or iPhone, you have to download a Zoom app
Yeah.
before it will let you connect. So
It says meeting ID. So what's your ID?
Oh, I could send that, or you could read it to her.
Yeah, read it to me.
You're muted, Dan. Dan, you're muted.
Yeah, I think he's talking to someone on the phone and wants to be muted.
Oh,
No, I unmuted. So what's it doing again?
No, I didn't get any
So
information.
Ann can see us, but she can't put the speaker on, right? But you can't hear it.
I can hear Dan.
Do you want me to
Alice
read
can
it?
hear
and
Dan.
Let me take it. Sure, I'm going to put you back on mute.
Okay. Now I can't hear him.
Okay. I sent Ann the link about 15 minutes ago, and she got into the space that says her name, but I just called her and she said she can't quite get it to do other than listen to you guys, but she can't respond or send an image on the screen. So she's trying again.
Are you talking about Ann or Alice?
Ann FCA.
Oh,
We'll see. And what it could do for right now, you guys keep going.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to call Ann and get her. I'll just leave my phone right here, and she can hear everybody.
Yeah.
Keep going though.
Yeah, so what things have helped you avoid going back to an old habit you didn't want to go back
Okay.
to?
Once I get home, I can do it for sure.
Okay,
And we're
because
trying to do it another way.
I
at this
put you on the phone. If you want to just hear it on my phone, you're on.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so I'm putting the phone down. You're on speaker. I can hear you. Ready? Ken, right?
Yes, we can hear her through the speakerphone. Yes.
Okay, at your service. Tell me when you want to get up. Okay, so where were we before I got?
So we're talking about bad habits and how I've experienced falling back into them, and I'm asking what are things have helped you avoid falling back into bad habits that you want to avoid, or what
Wow.
would trigger you to fall back into bad habits you want to avoid.
Yeah, I understand that, but I always jump in too much. So let some other be.
Yeah, because I remember there was a particular mobile game that I wanted to quit. And as part of the game, the way to win at the game was to have other Facebook friends playing the game. So they were trying to make you force your Facebook friends to play the game. But actually the right strategy was just to find people already playing the game and add them on Facebook. So there was a whole circle of us who had done that. So we would see so I would have all this content posts about other people talking about what they were winning and stuff and their strategies. And so that would trigger me to go back and play it again. And I realized, no, I had to like get out of all those Facebook groups around playing the game and delete all those Facebook friends. So I'd avoid getting pulled back into this game when I decided that it was too much of a time sink and I didn't want to play it anymore.
It's a clever workaround.
Mm-hmm.
Let's somebody else say something. I'm too willing to jump in, so I'm trying to back off.
Well, maybe overeating, although I go through periods where I think that's sinful for me, and I go through periods where I don't. I figure I'm old, why don't I just eat whatever I want, so it's something that I'm always reevaluating, I guess.
Yeah, constant. It's like meditating. You can constantly getting quiet and getting quiet. It's not just I'm quiet and I'm staying quiet for 20 minutes. You're constantly going, oh, come on back. Okay, now be quiet.
Yay.
So next I want to transfer,
You have to turn off your speaker.
Great.
next I want to focus on what is probably the most difficult thing to get in the verse where the translation is different. So I'm going to read all the different ways this is translated.
Sure.
So, be transformed by the renewing of the mind so that you may prove what the will of God is, so that you may discern what is the good, pleasing, perfect will of God, so that you may test and approve what is the will of God.
Huh.
That by testing you may discern what is the will of God. So what's happening here is that there's a word in Greek which might be like prove, discern, or test and approve. It is a word mostly used in like assaying, like so if you had a piece of gold and you're trying to figure out how pure it is, this is a word that would refer to that process. For somebody in the ancient Greek world, they would use this word.
Oh.
And
Can you say that word again?
Use this sort of proof process to find the will of God or think about the will of God. So we want to look, so we want to be able to prove to ourselves what the will of God is, not just rely on another person telling us what the will of God is, or on a simple formulaic way of saying, look, I have found a proof verse that will tell me what the word of God is. We want to actually, say things so that we really know for sure what the will of God is. So that we can, because as we focus on what the will of God is and what is good, perfect, and acceptable, we want that to be the right thing, because that's what we're going to focus on by replacing bad habits with this good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. So we want to really be able to have the right will of God. So we need to know it well, not just sort of have a guess about it, but have this deep, down to the bones and where it gets understanding. So if somebody would read John 14:20 aloud.
And it's a race for the Bibles.
I've got it.
Okay.
John 14:20.
Mm-hmm.
At that day you will know that I am in my Father, and you in me, and I in you.
Mm-hmm. And somebody else look up John 15 verse 4.
It's on the same page.
Go ahead and read that.
Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine. Neither can you unless you abide in me.
Abide in me.
Abide in me. In other words, Jesus is saying we're not going to bear fruit if we're not keeping in touch with Jesus.
Yeah. And with each other. I think that's implied, isn't it?
So as you read or hear these verses, do you feel like you participate in them or participate in this scripture, this idea that they're trying to convey, this logos that this verse has? Or is there, or can you think of what you can feel as much participation as you can in these verses? Do you
Well,
feel
for
like,
me,
go
that
ahead.
quiet time that I have in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
just to sit and listen and be quiet. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
not that I hear him actually speaking to me, but I do feel that I am guided in a lot of things.
You can feel the sense of abiding, that God knows you and you know him, and there's a communion there, and there is a living source that pervades your life.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we look at these verses, we're going to be trying to get more of that sense of deep knowing and participation.
Mm-hmm.
I think keep coming back to time to ask for more. One of the things I got on a retreat that I went on was, and when I was doing a lot of work, a lot of directions, and just, my life was feeling overwhelmed, and I went on a retreat. Good. And I said on the retreat, what more could you do to make your life better? More. But then I came out with a buzzer that I have on my phone that says, thank you, like capital U, breathe, that's to me, and what would you, capital U, have me to now. And it's on recentering, re-looking at what can I do now? How do I be now? So it's just having something small that brings me back. Yeah.
And sometimes it can be small things that help you become close to God and truly test and approve what his will is. So what is one thing you have come to know most deeply? And how did that knowledge come about?
As in recently or over my life or?
Yes, right now that you already have knowledge of, it could have come about in the past or recently.
That's an
Say
The
it
habit
again.
of a daily quiet time.
Yes,
Uh,
what is one person, place, or thing? What is one noun you have come to know most deeply?
One thing you have come to learn.
Like, or it could be like a subject, like I'm really focused on Byzantine history,
Oh.
or and I know that very well, but it could be lots of things that you can come to know deeply.
Some sense of language is part of, for me, is to learn in different ways that people say things and what do they mean, and then different languages, how do they go together?
So
And
you've
I
noticed
like
things
this
about language. You probably know more than one language, right?
Yeah.
So you can see commonalities between two languages and
And,
how they work.
and recently I got to be talking to a lady that doesn't speak English and speaks French. And I said, "You're a French," and a long time ago. She spoke English like a long time ago. So we're working on communicating with each other, and you can communicate with a sense of just leaving it free. It's okay to not know. So that's one big thing. It's okay to not know.
Yes, understanding how language works is helpful in figuring out how to communicate with people and how communication can fail sometimes.
One of the things that was in our South African unit, now who was the president of South Africa, was in jail and then out.
Here, I got the front door open.
Because when he was there, he said, you speak to someone in your language, they understand you. But if you can speak to them in their language, they have a deep feeling that you do understand what they're talking about, that you're taking the time to learn your language. I'm sure I've not got the quote right, but the feeling of satisfaction that you are understanding me in my language.
That is a beautiful thing to understand deeply, is how language works.
Yeah. Me, I speak three languages. I speak Spanish, I speak English, and I speak bad English because I'm from New York. That's my third language.
There. Okay. Hey, do you want your picture off?
I missed that. I guess I considered what I've learned in the last year, 6 months, year, more than I've known before is I always say it, but it's important to be of service. And I feel like I'm doing my best job right now to be of service. It's got to be non-complaining. It's got to be because you want to do it or it's not the right way. But that's important, and that's what I've learned lately. Got to tap on that.
And it's interesting how we things that we actually do contribute to our deep knowledge. It's not just reading about something that helps me know about it. It's actually doing something
Yeah.
that is part of the knowledge structure that will help me really learn more deeply. Like at learning the language is one thing, but actually speaking was something. It was something gives you another level of understanding of that language.
it's a multi-mode thing. You're hearing it, you're speaking it, you're writing it.
Mm-hmm. So what we're going to be trying to put as much as we try to look at what the will of God, what is the good, acceptable, and perfect will of God in this study, we're going to try to be learning it as deeply as possible. So what do you think, how would you describe God's will?
There's a couple places that actually say God's will for you is, and I'd have to look them up, but
Mm-hmm.
for example, God's will is that you pray constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So we can know, I mean, there are ways we can know his will because it's in scripture.
Uh-huh. And actually doing things like that, like praying often, will help you then become more in tune with God's will, and will help help you ingrain that little tidbit of God's will in you.
Yes. And at the end of Matthew, where it says, go into all the world and
Mm-hmm.
preach the gospel,
Mm-hmm.
and he's talking to his disciples, but we assume that's God's will for us.
Mm-hmm.
because that's what he's teaching his disciples. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's another example where we can know God's will.
Yes. And following specific commands both is an example of God's will, and it's a way of getting more participatory knowledge of God's will if we can find individual commands and follow them.
I think
Love your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
That's God's will, to love everyone.
Yes. And definitely loving everyone. You is it. That's a way of communing with God and being participating in his will. Mm-hmm.
I was confusing the words will and know. I don't think I can know who God is, because if I think I do, I don't. But I think I don't have to put will in that category. I can figure out, do I know God's will? What can I do to follow that, to do that? What does that mean to me?
And
And
sometimes
I'm
that
still
can
not
be
sure.
knowing that you have an incomplete knowledge of God's will and just following it as far as you know it.
Yeah, yeah,
Sometimes you can say, look, I don't know perfectly what God's will is in this situation, but I'll follow as close as I can get to it.
yeah.
Sometimes we do have an exact command to follow, and sometimes things are more vague, and we can do follow in both cases. We can either, if he has exact direction, follow that. And if he doesn't have exact direction, accept that this is, God has not given you the exact outline in this situation.
Oh, as close as you can.
Yes, and do the best you can with what you've already learned about the general trend of his will. Okay, are there any more questions before I shut the recording down for prayer time?
Before we completely shut down, what would you like to do for next week?
We're gonna go on to looking what the will of God is. Our next section is going to go some other references Paul has to the will of God to try to understand what Paul means by knowing the will of God, as we try to figure out some more pointers toward that. So we're discussing the will of God more next week.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay.